Hey, so our first guest is Clément Bouchet, who's a seasoned editor, colorist, and visual artist. He's based in Queensland, Australia. Welcome, Clément.
Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to get you first on just because I feel like you are someone that I've been following for a while and who's done a lot of work in different fields as a multidisciplinary artist for post production between editing, coloring, and visual effects. And I feel like it would be like a great person to talk to, especially since we're both French people stuck in Australia, loving it here, and kind of want to know a bit about like your early beginnings, how you got into it. Did you know what you wanted to do at first? And kind of like, how did you get to Australia?
Oh, yeah. So before, when I was in school, high school, I wanted to go in the military. I wanted to be a commando person. I even did a training for that. But I did like an option cinema in that high school. And if you wanted to go that high school, you need to take an option because I was far away for that specific school. So I took cinema options, and at first I was like, okay, yeah, that's interesting, and I started making some short film, just playing around with the editing tool, starting editing with like what we call AMVs. Maybe it's pretty niche. It's like cutting anime stuff with music you love, and it's from the early 2000s. And I was like loving doing that, like Naruto, One Piece, and other anime. And I was like, I love making editing with music and making visual effects on After Effects, And I started learning like that, and I started doing this option, cinema option. And I learned more about the process of telling a story, how to properly edit, studying cinema because I knew nothing. My parents are intellectual. They're people like everyday people who work in do like labor jobs and stuff like that. So it was a kind of adventure. I started from zero, like learning. All my other friends were like kids from teachers, or they know already better about more about cinema, or just what director you need to watch, what's type of arts you need to know about. In France and in New Caledonia, you need to know a lot about architecture, literature, cinema in general. So yeah.
That's awesome. And kind of give me a bit of a pathway that you've done to where you started, while you learned about cinema and all that stuff because of the military and because of your kind of university experience. And then how did you get all the way to here, being in Queensland, Australia? Because I've seen you worked for Heckler, Alt.vfx, and like some pretty major companies. And kind of tell us a bit where you started, pivotal moments, and how you got to where you are now.
So in high school, I had a teacher who was like really helpful. He knew that I was really passionate about making films. Just like I was even like directing small stuff, my own short film, and I was really getting into it, like trying to write stories about youth, the classic story about suicide when you're younger. I was really inspired by gore cinema at the beginning because my parents used to show me gore movies. So I've started like with a piece of like bloody stuff. I won't get into the details, but and my teacher, even though that was weird what I was doing, he was like, okay, I'm gonna support you. Even shot a scene in his bathroom, and I made a mess full of blood because there was a scene where he's cutting his veins, and I made a mess. He was like, oh, no, that's fine, I'll clean it. It was so helpful, and because of that, I was more involved into the cinema option in the high school, and I was helping other people. So I started learning more about the softwares, learning more about how to do things on the set, even though now I'm more in post. And I was able to get scholarship to go study in France, in France is boursier. So they, if you are from New Caledonia, you have good grades. They pay for the flight, they pay for the location, like where you're gonna live. They pay for the school. But I did what we call a technical degree in France called BTS, specialized in editing. So studying a lot of editing or history of arts, and working with other teams like camera and other department like production, and trying to learn about the industry. And then I did a few training here and there and I did a training in Paris too, in a small documentary place. I think it was called Channel. No, it was not Channel 5. It was called The Five. I don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago, and they were super helpful again. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want this to be my job, because I did not know, except the military, I didn't know what to do. Because my father used to be a military, and there was nothing related to arts in my family. And my brother, who is a 2D animator, was a excellent drawing artist, but that's it. Now my brother is a like high-end 2D animator in France, doing feature film and all. And I'm so to get back to me, I was like inspired by my brother, by other friends who wanted to study that. So I went to France, I studied cinema, and I was like, okay, so how do I make money with that? And I finished my studying. I went back to New Caledonia, and I started working right away. So it was a small music video, but it was a music video about New Caledonia. So about the Kana culture. It was the band was called Josephine. It was about the story of the country and the colonialism and stuff like that. And we had puppets, like with how can I explain that?
You can do it in French. We'll translate it.
Yeah, avec des ficelles, tu vois. Sometimes, yeah, I lose the vocabulary.
Don't worry about it.
Thanks. And it was a great experience, but a brutal experience, because I used to go on shoot and help the director, like, because there was visual effects. So I was supervising a little bit visual effects, because I was the only one knowing about After Effects at this time, and trying to build and get rid of the elements, some elements on the scene, to hide that they are puppets. And so we did that, and it was like 15 hours shoot per day. And then coming back from the shoot, I was the one in charge to copy rushes and check. So I was going to bed at 3 or 4 a.m., starting at 7 every day. And it was quite a brutal experience, but it was a great experience, because I learned a lot. And then from there, I was like starting to do more in New Caledonia. And my partner, Marine, she started studying in Australia. And, I wanted to be with her. So I took a working holiday visa in Australia, in Sydney. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try. And I'm going to go to Australia. My English was absolutely terrible. But I knew a lot about the technical English. So I used to, from the early version of Resolve, I used to work with the software in English. There was no other options. There was only English. So, and other software were in English too. So I was really good with technical English. And so I started going around the city and giving my resume to people. I was like, I want to work for you. I'm really good with technical stuff, and I can, manage data and sync audio, anything you need, and I can edit. I can do everything basically. And Heckler called me back. They were like, "Oh, interested." So I started my job as IO, so in-out, edit assist, color assist, and I was selling myself more of a colorist assistant. Because I was doing more and more DaVinci Resolve and learning more about the process. Because in parallel of working, I was curious about of the color science. studying how it works, like how screen works, how software, what is color space, what is gamut, blah blah blah, all these things. And it was because I always thought I need to know perfectly how it works to be to consider myself a high-end artist, to be like, oh, I don't know what that means, slug, blah blah blah, all these things, but like I can tell you exactly why they do that like this, and I can pick the perfect, technical aspect of the solution for a project, and we won't have surprises later on about the quality, because that was my biggest fear, choose
Yeah, of
on the
course.
shoot settings or in post some settings that mess everything up. And I'm like, I'm responsible for this, so it needs to be 100% perfect. It needs to be smooth. I need to be technically perfect, so I can focus on the artistic side of things. I don't want to be
I like
bothered.
that.
Yeah, I don't want to be bothered by, oh, man, I missed that setting. Oh, I picked the wrong frame rate. Oh, it doesn't look great. I don't want to bother with that when I'm editing, because as Alain René used to say, the French director used to say, editing is a physical part of the process, writing process, but he used to edit standing up, and on film, of course, so it was quite different. But I was reminded that when I edit, I want everything to be perfect, to be fast. I don't want to be slowed down by software. I want to be writing and only thinking about what I'm seeing. And it's the same thing for
Yeah.
color grading. I color manage things first. I want to be sure I won't be surprised at some point and start over or lose time. So I can be relaxed and only focusing about, telling the story. Those.
Yeah. I feel like that really comes to a point where I don't know who it was again that told me a bit of a, it must be like one of my mentors that just kind of like told me like, yeah, every split time that you have to like, I don't know, reshuffle something, it's you put your folder in the wrong bin or you didn't color match correctly, and you have this latency between your next action. Like the bigger latency is, the more your chances of like losing your train of thoughts and getting out of that like flow state happens. And when you were just talking about like, yeah, I want the tool to know it by heart so it doesn't pull me back, and then I can just focus on my flow state rather than like, oh, is this the right thing, or did I do this the right way, or whatever it is. Like, I see exactly what your train of thought is like, just know the tools by heart, so then you don't have to like think about it. You can just go into your flow state of just editing, coloring, VFX, I don't know, whatever you're doing.
Yes.
I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm by nature, I'm quite an anxious person. You need things to be, perfect, so I don't worry. And if I don't worry, I do a better job. If I'm not rushed, I do a way better job. Even we know sometimes in this field, things are really fast pace. But I'm able to work really fast if I know everything else around me works. Like there is a flow, like you said.
Yeah.
I can focus on the storytelling, and it's even more true with colors, because I'm in front of my panel and I'm grading and I'm feeling colors. I'm not worrying about, oh, is it out of gamut? I will check that, of course, but usually my tools are, controlling that for me, softening everything, and then I'm just focusing on, okay, does it feel right?
Yeah, no, I love that. I guess it kind of explains all the way how you got to Australia. And I love the fact that you started and your first job is like 15 hours on the set and then post-production and IOing and getting everything ready for the next day. Uh, what would you say if someone was starting in the career and they had like the chance to be kind of slaving around on big projects that are very, very stressful? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh no, you got to take it slow, start slowly and what stuff, and slowly you'll build up. But I feel like you just went the other way around and you were like, well, I'm going to do like probably one of the hardest projects in my life as a get-go, beyond the stress and all that. And I guess like, even if you failed in it, you just learned so much that you grew really, really, really fast. No? I want to know kind of like what you would say for someone who's like starting out.
I think so. I would not do exactly like me, except when you're in school, you want to be curious. Do a, I'm just want to explain something first. So when I was in school in France, there was the going to school every day, but on the weekend, I was on Saturday, for example, I was okay. Today, I'm doing 2 hours of After Effects. I'm taking this tutorial. I'm gonna do a tutorial, or you want to do extra work on the side, just for yourself, learning something you like, because it's gonna give you confidence. But usually, I tell people to try to develop their own ideas, to make something they love, because you're gonna feel better doing it. For example, now going on shoot, I'm a little bit scared going on shoot because I know how intense and how hard it is because of my past experience. I know it can be brutal, so I'm a bit scared, and it's maybe might be not be the best feeling for it. If you can do like get some experience with your friends making short films, do it. Just trying to make, I used to do zombie stories, like gory films, just for fun, and you learn like that with fun. It's going to be much easier to apprehend the next harder job, going on a more challenging, or working with people who, expecting you to achieve something, and you're going to be paid for it. It's better if you trying doing a small short film, doing small festival, and trying from there. You're gonna learn a lot, but then you want to be able to get somewhere with an assistant job and do what people tell you to do, and trying to listen to be sure you can work with people, because that's the other thing, is how patient you are to work with in a fast-paced environment with people that can be quite challenging with you sometimes, because senior people, they can be really patient with you, but they can also, they want to try, they will challenge you, they're gonna test you. That's what happened to me in a Heckler or Alt at the beginning. They would test you, like they see how far you can go, like how many hours can you do per day, because they need you to be sure when there is a hard job, really challenging, long hours, you're not gonna crack. You're gonna be able to, with fatigue, they want to be sure that you can achieve your job and you won't be freaking out. I'm hoping I'm answering the question.
No,
yeah.
definitely. Like, I think because it's this thing of like colorist or post-production people, there's a whole new wave of people, which is like, the content creators, the world and what stuff. But we're talking cinema, we're talking like big agencies, big productions, and that's kind of like the world you're in. And that's why I want to talk to you, is like, what is your experience of being in that world, and your experience of like learning in that world, and what you tell, because a lot of people want to be part of that world, but sometimes it's a bit like crucial to understand like what's the step to get into it and what it involves. And I think you explaining like they're going to push you, they're going to do this, but the best way to like to make yourself resistant to like the fatigue, the harshness of the work environment and the stress of it, is to kind of do short films, do stuff that you enjoyed when you're young and when you're at film school, and really don't feel scared of like doing stuff and failing if you need to, but like doing stuff. Because when you're like with the big guys, the big dogs, you don't really have too many chances to fail, or to like, because the stakes are so high. So I think you explained it really, really well, which is like, do it for the love of it. And then on the day where, it's not just the love of it because you're so tired, do it because, you promise yourself to do it.
Yeah, and I will give you a specific example for what I meant by, when you do something you love. So for me, I love being in an editing room or color grading room and prepping my environment, my little bubble, and using my software, which is a bit nerdy, I know. Like, I feel I'm relaxing when I'm using Resolve, because in the past I had the time to learn it myself, to make the errors, the mistakes. And now I'm so confident that when someone say, "Oh, could you help me with that on Resolve?" I'm like, I'm super happy to go help them because I'm so confident, and there is a good feeling. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes when you learn with fun and with like in a relaxed environment, you feel better. You won't feel anxious about it. Counter example, when I arrived at Alt, there was at the beginning it was a bit brutal because I had to learn Nuke Studio. Nuke Studio is a software, I don't know if you know it. It's a great tool to prep VFX shots. But when you have a Python pipeline, which is coding to develop and export the shot in a specific way for artists to work with, there are a lot of glitches happening. And I was so frustrated at the beginning. It's such a tricky task. And I wasn't able to ask the right things or ask, I don't know how to explain, but I failed a lot with this tool at the beginning. And every time in the future, after that experience, every time I had to jump on Nuke Studio, I was like getting anxious. Like I was like crazy about, I don't want to do that. It's horrible, And I just want to insist on the fact that when you learn about a tool or shooting or whatever you're doing, just trying to do it first of all in an environment when or you on your own or your friend you can trust, and they will be chill about it, and you can learn the easy way, and then you progress towards something more complicated. I'm obviously careful to say that. I just want to insist on the fact that it's about what we call affects. It's also a word in English you can use, affects. It's, how do you feel about an object, a person, a situation that make you want to do more? It's about passion. It might be not super relevant for this, but if you take your time and you control, you master your tools, you'll be scared after that. You sit with the CEO, the company, with the tool, you won't be scared. And it was my experience at Alt, because the CEO of Alt is a super smart guy, but is really intense. And I know other producers are scared by that. You might need to cut that, but so the thing is, when you relax and you're really honest with that guy, it won't bother you, And it was my experience. So people were scared, throwing the CEO of Alt into a room with this, new editor colorist, let's say. And I was like, it's not that bad. He's asked me to do that. I'm just executing what he wants. And he was happy at the end, It's just super intense with him, but you need to, you need to be able to control some aspect of your environment to be confident, so there is a great outcome. Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's like just knowing your tools and your environment well enough that no matter what comes at you, you feel confident that you can do it, or you can feel confident. But like, I guess that's like spending a lot of time by yourself or with friends to really churn and learn and be just sure about what you're doing, which is like, I can see that after just seeing you've done this for 15 years, and you seem like someone who really enjoys learning the nitty gritty of it and the science behind everything and the softwares and everything and your environment, making it perfect for it. It really, really helps to be able to work in environments where the CEO of Alt.vfx, whatever it is, just comes in the room and you feel confident to do exactly what he's asking from you, which is amazing. And I guess that kind of goes into the next part of it. It's because in post-production, a lot of people think it's like you're a little rat in a room working 12 hours a day nonstop without seeing the sunlight and seeing anyone. But it seems to me, talking to you, that collaboration is a massive, massive part of what you do. So I want to hear a bit more about you in collaboration in editing or collaboration in color or VFX pipelines, and how that kind of works for you, and how, what it is like in the room, doing post-production, and who do you work with, and what's the funnest part about it?
So yeah, the human side of things, I think I've been talking a lot about software and all, but yeah, being able to collaborate with people is so important, obviously. How could I start? So usually you want to be able to, the biggest challenge in color, for example, I'll take a a concrete example. People will tell you they want that with their own wording. This is the most challenging things when you work with people. They're gonna say, "Oh, this picture is a bit sad or too flat," or they use a specific vocabulary, and sometimes what the word they use, the wording doesn't mean the same thing for you. So you need to interpret what they're saying to achieve their vision. So you need to learn how to understand people. So you need to sometimes talk about with the client and say, "How are you?" Also try to learn a bit about them. Of course, if you have the time. Or sometimes even they chat on their own. They're like talking about their life, and you need to listen a little bit. Sometimes you have to work at the same time. It is what it is. But you learn a lot about the person. You need to learn about the person to achieve her or his vision. And yeah, that's at the beginning was the most challenging things, understanding what they really meant by, because saturation, for example, doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Saturation is pretty specific in post-production. It's a technical term, but saturation can mean other things outside of post-production. So, and people usually don't know what saturation means in post-production.
Is it something along the lines of, oh yeah, like I want it more saturated, but it's like actually you want it desaturated because you want density.
Yeah.
Or like it is something like that, and you're like juggling like, oh, but this image is, I'm like, no, this is super desaturated, just very dense.
Yeah.
And just like understanding like what they want. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And like filmic, what do you mean by filmic? And usually I'm like, you need to give me images of what you like. What kind of movies do you like? And I can understand what they mean by filmic, And I usually some people, they like, I just want something like filmic blue that looks like this film. But I'm like, I'm gonna ask, can you grab some stills and give it to me, because it helped me so much. Yeah, it's these kind of things. And in the room, you want to be listening to what they're saying, of course, but you want to show them examples. Usually it's great to give them options, because they know what they want, but usually they're not sure about it. Nobody is sure 100% exactly what they want, except there are exceptions. But if your name is David Fincher, maybe, because this guy is insane in color grading. I don't know if you watch video about it. This guy?
No.
It's I'll share some video with you. So David Fincher,
yes, please.
If you watch his color grading, it's different. You feel it's more balanced. So there is this example. One day I was watching, there is this Netflix show on, it's not Mindhunter, it's the animated show, Love, do you know maybe what I'm talking about?
Robots, robots, yeah.
So the first season, there is a story on a boat. I don't know if you saw that episode of, there is a creature, there is a storm, and they're on the boat, there's this creature appearing and stuff like that. And I was watching the show. I didn't know there was David Fincher, working on it. And I was like, the grade is quite like amazing, and everything is quite balanced. Everything is perfect in terms of how left and right are balanced in terms of exposure. And I was like, that might be David Fincher. And I was David Fincher when I watched the credits, because with its editor, usually on the shoot, it's already there. The picture is like, it doesn't like, for example, it's insane, doesn't like purple or magenta tones. You don't want that in his film. But also he will put notes on Frame.io and say, put a windows here, or put a windows there on the left and right, because you want to rebalance between shots how you feel about left and right. So it's about sculpting the picture, and he goes in insane details about that. And the editor, who works with him for years, knows about that, so he's used to it. But you have to work a lot of secondaries with him to be able to achieve what he wants. And so to come back to the main subject, sometimes people, they're gonna want something super filmic, and you're gonna have to show them options, because like I said, they are not 100% sure what they want, and they're gonna be like, that's it, that's what I want. And then you're gonna tweak it based on the scene and everything.
I guess I'll stop you here just because like as someone who does color as well, sometimes have a hard time getting the versions quick enough for the client. They want like, oh yeah, can we try this and this, and I'll make like new kind of like versions, and I'll try and like go in between and flick and whatever it is. But as someone who's done it for 15 years, I want to know what would be the best way to deliver to the clients just choices and like work with them. Do you do like very different realm? Do you like all in the same realm, or like what would be like your suggestion for someone who's like battling with bettering themselves at this kind of sport, I'd say?
Like I say at the beginning, you want them to give you examples. So usually you go on Film Grab or what is the other one?
Frame sets?
Yeah, there is this one. There is a few. And they're going to grab stills for you because it's important they have like a rough idea of the film they want. Because usually you achieve a filmic vision. Let's talk about film and not documentary yet. But because if you want to feel like it's film, not only there is a lot of things happening on the shoot, but also it's always related to real life example of stocks. So you want them to say, what kind of film do you like? And show me a few examples of the style you want to go. And you're going to give them with your first try this. But you're going to be like giving them a few examples of that, I don't know, with different contrast, different mood, for example, on the scene. But also you're going to ask them about what this scene means, what type of story you don't want to tell, because the job of a colorist it's not really colors, it's about helping telling the story, which is obvious, but sometimes you forget when you're like on your computer, being technical and stuff. So, but sometimes also you want to be like, okay, I've shown you options, and that's what I think would work great for your film. And clients, they love, they love that, you anticipate needs and stuff like that. I hope it helps saying all of this.
No, definitely. Yeah. I guess it's sometimes I forget that it's a conversation with the client. Yeah. It's not just like a client sits down like, and you need this film stock for your movie, and this is the way. In like Cool Done, it's like, well, what does this scene mean? What does give me references? Is it sad? Is it like, knowing a bit about their life, like we were talking before, and listening to what they say? And I guess all this ends up being a conversation and getting like the idea of like what they do want at the end. Yeah. Because I guess they can comment into like, I want like this reference, and they'll show you a reference, but then 2 hours down the line, and after talking to them, they went from sepia tones to like, I don't know, cool tones for the whole thing. And it's because like, oh, actually this sits way better with what I actually wanted to express. It's just like, I thought my movie wanted to be like this, but my movie is more like that. And I guess like just you're all explaining really, really well of like just chatting with them. And even if you're working, you're listening to what they're talking about. Yeah. And then you kind of like go like, oh, but let me try this for you. And then like, they're like, oh, that's exactly what I want. Yeah. And it must be like, it's such a good feeling when you like, hit the nail on the head. But yeah. I guess my next, because I'm seeing already like at 43 minutes, I want to kind of go through a bit about, I wanted to ask at first about like where the industry was going and like AI and stuff, but I'm like, I don't want to talk about that because everyone else in the entire world is talking about that at the moment. I feel like look, we're not everyone else. We are just two French people in Australia. So let's talk about a bit more, I want to talk about work-life balance and mentorship. So two things that I feel like are very important. And you took the route of working for massive agencies with like the big dogs, the big mentorships of people that have been in it and done massive movies already. So I want to know kind of like what that is like, what it demands from you and what you learn from it, as well as like, well, now you've done this on one side, how do you deal with like your work-life balance?
First of all, I'm going to talk about a few experience with senior colorists I work with in these companies. So one of the greatest experience I can talk about, I used to, at Heckler, you get some really high-end colorists working sometimes with just on ads because they have to pay the bills. And I don't know if you know Trish Cahill. She graded The Hobbit.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, as soon as I knew she was coming, and she came to the office multiple times, I was like, of course, doing some grade conform for her. So you want to learn from that. When you do a grade conform, you want to be patient and listen to what they want for their session, because usually they all a bit different about how they cache things, how they want the timeline to look like, how they want the conform to be done. And when you do that and you go in the room, you ask a few questions. You're like, if you see that she's not bothered or he's not bothered, you're like asking questions about how would you do that about this shot? And usually they're happy to explain about how they do things. And one of the most important things I learned from her is balancing. Balancing shot is the most important part of the whole process. Like getting the skin tones right. You want to spend like good amount of time and fast as possible, obviously, like feeling on all your shot that the skin tones are looking natural and great, obviously, which is a relative word. But and she was saying I was spend some time like balancing and be sure I'm really happy with the skin tones, and then I can move on. If you don't do that and you put your look on the top and everything, you're gonna have to go back and fix things, and it's not gonna feel great. So that's one of the main things I learned. There is other technical things I learned from all these people about how to, process the images, but it's a bit too technical. I won't go into details now. It's just, I was also looking at how they were working. So I was sitting next to them. Sometimes I was like, when there was no client, I would say, can I sit next to you and just watch what you're doing? And I was looking, not asking too many questions, but looking at them, for example, how fast they go to grade a shot. It's not about speed, obviously, but I look at them, how they balance on the wheel, on the trackball, seeing how they do it, how with what they start. Is it balanced with printer points? Is it just exposure? Are they using gamma, for example? These kinds of things, like really basic. Just going back to the basics, and I was just looking and asking questions from time to time. And you want to, ask them if they need anything, all of that, and usually that's what I would do. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Well, I guess this is like the mentorships and, the interest of what you had of like learning, being behind those people. And the other side is like work-life balance, kind of like, because I guess like if you're the same as me, all you think about is, color grading, VFX, editing, work, and then your partner's like, oh my God, all you think about is that. I'm like, yes, I'm so sorry. I'm just so interested in it. I'm so interested in it. I want to learn so much about it. I'm sorry it's kind of affecting our life together. But I want to know, as someone who's done it for 15 years, how do you deal with it? Do you have any tips? Do you have anything,
This is quite a major topic. And so at the beginning, when I was younger, I was like just wanted to do that all the time. And I was even shouting at my friends, like on a shoot, like when we were in school. People wanted to finish at a certain time, and I was like, no, it's not perfect. We need to do more. It has to be. And I was like, almost not insulting them. I was like, yeah, if you want to work in the industry, you need to sacrifice. You can't count hours. Now I think it was a bit obnoxious to say that on a shoot with like other students and other people, even though I think sometimes you have to do an extra step. You have to do a bit more to achieve a vision. You have to be careful to your surrounding and how you treat people. I'm still obsessed with film. I'm still obsessed with I'm still learning about color science, for example. I'm still learning new tools. I'm kind of a nerd, so every month I'm checking something new. I'm trying a new technique. I'm getting more into like how film stocks are working, all of that. But I'm trying to balance work life a bit better, just because when I was, let's say 17, I could do a lot of hours. I was doing like overnight, doing visual effects with my friends and just trying to pushing, even challenging ourselves, saying, okay, let's see who's going to be tired first, like crazy stuff. But you get sick. I got sick. No, I never burn out. I'm unlucky for that, but I got close to it. My brother, who is a 2D animator, is even more passionate than me. He got burnout. And it doesn't look good. And you need to decide at some point what you want to do and how long you want to live, because it is intense sometimes. But you need to understand that sometimes you can say no. At the beginning, I was never saying no. But when I got older,
no does not exist.
When I got older, I got more confident. I was like, I'm not going to do this, because if I get sick, you're going to pay the bill. Because I literally saw parents, mothers coming to work to see their father, because they couldn't see their father. It might be a bit heavy for the conversation, but there is something we need to talk about, and it might not. Some people might not be a bit happy about that. It's the challenge of the status quo. It means on industry, I love my industry. I love working with. I've met so many amazing people working way harder than me. I learn things from them. What I say is nobody is challenging enough how things work in an industry. I think our industry needs to change a lot in terms of how you balance work life. Even though, I'm happy to, if I go on a shoot and I have to do 2 extra hours because we want to achieve something great, or in post, sometimes I spend more hours, even though I'm freelance now. Sometimes I spend an evening because I'm not happy about something. But we have to change the way our industry do things and how we perceive, work, I think, to, allow most people to say, okay, I need to go home now. It's like in Japan, people, there is this culture of, staying at work if the boss staying at work. This is a whole topic, so I won't go into much detail. But even though if you feel like yourself, you can push, you can do more hours. If your friends, you saw that they're exhausted, you can't push them. You're not. I would even say you're not allowed to push them. You need to trim them well. And yeah, I hope I'm answering the question. I can say more about it, but yeah.
Well, I guess it's like more I've heard this from so many people in the industry. People saying like, man, they're burnt out. They're doing great at work, but like they literally barely see their partners or their kids, because you have kids and this all continues. The world doesn't stop. But yeah, like I guess I chose a bit of a different path where I do mostly commercial work. So it's a way better work-life balance than I guess the film industry or documentaries or bigger commercials. But I want to know you, who's exactly in that world. We want to talk about that just afterwards. You're working on a feature length, which you did editing and you also did color for. And kind of like, how did you...
Yeah. Sorry, I did only, I did color grading and online editing, not the edit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to kind of ask you, because I want to talk about that just afterwards. You did the online edit and color grading for this feature length that's coming out soon. Well, I don't know how soon it's coming out, but so you're literally in that world that we're talking about, the industry, and you're right in the middle of it. And how are you dealing with that kind of, because you're with your partner, you got friends around, you got your own health. You said already, like, you fell sick a few times from overworking, even though you didn't burn out. But is there any tips you would have, even tips from people that are in the industry that you would give? Because that's something I hear so often, and it's not really talked about because it's like kind of taboo, like, oh, you should be working harder, all the time. And I want to hear what's your thoughts about how you would deal with it.
Wow, this is just such a hard question to answer.
I know it is. That's why I'm asking it.
On that specific feature film, to be honest, things were much better because this is a small independent feature, and the team I work with was amazing. Elise, the director, she's quite young and she's starting, and all the team were newcomers, but they did an amazing job. The parents are producing it, but they did like the results is quite amazing and the image is beautiful. And I was like, it was not a difficult job. I was trying to do, let's say, I was telling myself, okay, today per day I won't do more than 10 hours per day, and I will take weekends off. I will sometime take calls on the weekend, but I will be super honest with the team and saying, oh, I won't be available this weekend, for example. You want to manage expectations, and you want to be sure from day one what they are going to ask you in terms of working hours. But it is always the same thing, going back to the status quo, saying like, as an individual, what can I do to change things all around? Because it's the whole industry that needs to change. Sometimes you can't do much on an individual level. So it's a tricky question, because you need to check. Let's say you get an ad, even for ad that can happen sometimes. You have a tight deadline for an ad, let's say, and they're gonna give you're gonna ask, how many weeks are we working this? Is it just a week? How many deliverables? You want to ask before the job starts, what they want to achieve and how long do you have. And if you feel like this is it's not enough, if you want to preserve your health, you have to say no. I know it's a tricky thing because you need to pay the bills, but it's you need to decide before you start the job. That's what I would say. If this is going to be too crazy, you're gonna work 15 hours per day or even more. If everybody say yes to this kind of job, it's gonna stay like that, not challenging the status quo.
It's like a collective. It's like a collective mindset of like,
yeah, and
as long as you don't challenge it as a community, it's never going to change.
And join the union. There is a VFX union. If you do visual effects, join the union. This is how it works. There is a lot of things to change in our industry, and being part of a union to help with legal matters and all, and they will ask things for you. Even so, it works for sole trader or freelancer. You want to be heard. You want to communicate with others. You want to even don't be afraid to ask how much your friend doing the same thing as you earns. How much do you earn? Because you need to be aware what's going on with like money around. It is always a tricky also topic, but like I'm not afraid to ask another friend colorist how much does it charge per day, or because if you're gonna manage better your finance, and also what you ask to that specific producer, because usually Australia is not that big. I mean, the country is big, but the industry is small. So you can ask, do you know that producer? Do you know how they charge? How was your experience with that producer previously? And you're gonna get, green flags or red flags. That's my other main point, is trying to learn a bit more about who's producing, what is the company who's gonna hire you. And like that, you can set expectation, I know it's not perfect what I'm saying.
No, it's super good.
That's what I would do. But it's easier for me to say that now than I have more experience than a young, styling colorist or editor. But usually I would say go into a company, do VFX assistant work or edit assist, and try to learn from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I guess like we're nearing an hour already, and the last thing I wanted to talk about, because I'm really interested about it, I've been talking with you about it, is this feature length that you've done. I think it's the first time you were telling me that you're doing the whole online editing color, like it's all you, and you're working with people, of course, but it's like, as it's kind of the dream of every colorist is to get to the feature length world. And yeah, what did you learn from it, and what do you want to, for anyone that is hearing it, that's starting out colorist, or that's, done it for a while, whatever it is, like what's the thing you want to share about it? And then we'll finish after that with one question you want to give to the next person, because I kind of like this format.
That's cool. So the first thing I did with the team, with Elise and his father David, we had a meeting, and I was like, talk to me about what you love in cinema. Who are you? Who are you? And I tried to understand who they were, because I never met them in person. I'm working here in Townsville, and I do what we call remote session. I do stream like in real time. And I will say that to everybody: don't grade, export files, and wait for an email. It's a bit more expensive, but you can use PixelView or other software to use streaming in low latency. You get like 2-second delay between the person and you, and you can grade in real time. You can balance shots on your own, but then you do sessions with the person and you grade in real time and you show them. It's way better. It's going to make things way easier for you. But to come back to main subject, it's, if you want to, what I would suggest is learn about film stock. If you want, I'm talking specifically about feature film. You want to understand photogrammetry aspect of film. So, for example, in film, there is one main rule you need to know and always remember. Whatever crazy camera you're using when you do a film, except HDR, but that's another topic, everything, if the DOP is good, everything is exposed over 7 stops. And that's it. So when you do expose for a film, you need to remember that you don't have crazy values going to black to white, going super high. You want to expose to 7 stops. Usually feature film, if you pay attention, the exposure is a bit below average. Because films are graded for cinema rooms. So you feel like the image is a bit more compressed in terms of exposure, instead of in terms of dynamic. That's what I'm talking about here. So you want to study photography, how it works, the film emulsion, how it works from scratch. You want to learn about color science. How do you map colors? Usually how to go to log to Rec 79, how to control all these things. And you really want to learn, you can do master classes about color science. You can do master classes about photography if you like. And if you learn that, when you start a feature film, you're going to be able to show images to your clients that is relative to film stock. I don't believe that just copying a film stock. People love doing that. It's really, right now it's really, famous. But I like creating a mix, doing a hybrid between film and modern style. But the director was going to want to see something filmic, so you need to understand what they mean by that, and you need to understand the process in details. So, and what I will do, the other thing is, you don't start with the full-length film showing everything you graded. You want to start, first of all, you want to build the overall look of the film based on the images the director gave you. She gave me, there was The Quiet Place, for example. Which was shot on film. So you go on IMDb or other places of Film Grab, and they'll give you the stocks they're using for that. There is white paper about these stocks if you want to look at the curves. All of that can be a bit technical, but if you want to do feature films, it is what it is. But nowadays with internet, you can learn so much faster. There's so much, and there is so many people they are super keen to help you with that. So you take the example, you're gonna grab a few stills, couple of shots per sequence that representing the movie. You don't have to do every sequence of the film, and you're gonna show that to your director. And you're gonna be, is it the right direction, because you don't have a lot of time. You have added the grade in 13 days, and sometimes you even have less. But I was like, let's take the time and just build the look. So you take a few still, they're gonna be, oh, that's great, that's exactly what I wanted, or no, that's wrong, you know. And you tell them, be super honest with me because we need to go fast, you know. And from there, if they're happy with the base look, you can start working on a few sequences. Let's say you're gonna start sequence 1, and we're gonna focus on that and show them this first sequence balance and with the look on. And if they're happy, you can move on. You know, you can go. I like to work sequence by sequence, or I do as much as I can in some sequence. And we have shorter session. It depends what the time you have, obviously. But with Ellie's, it was easier because I was able to, you know, take like 3 or 4 sequences per day, and we grade that. We focus on that. We do a first pass overall. Is the look is great? Yeah, it is. Then you start working on secondaries. But the first thing is balance. You know, you want to focus on that. And then you can add windows with them. You're going to be like, how do you think about this shot, for example? Is it like, are we focusing enough on the characters? I can put some vignette in there or darken the background, or, you know, you sculpt the image with them, and they're going to be super happy about doing this with you in real time. They love that. Everybody loves it. They're going to ask questions about, oh, could you do that? And you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that. Usually, because it's, again, a collaborative work, you do a better job when you do it with someone. Even it's, you know, you feel like it's a job that you do on your own, all of that, but it's not really true. Usually you do always a better work with someone looking after doing your balances.
Yeah. Quick question, because I did a few remote work, and they always ask me like, oh, what should I view it on? You know, what should I be on my side viewing it on? Because like a lot of the times they can't be in a studio, they can't rent out a studio to like see it on a color calibrated in the right environment space. So like, what do you give as an example of like that is like 80%, 90% there, and I know that I can like, I know I've got my reference monitor, but as long as I see it there, I know it's kind of okay.
So this is a question of compromises. You have to be honest. If they don't have a calibrated monitor, they can use an iPad Pro. iPad Pros, I would say, really good for SDR. Maybe I think people are starting to test it for HDR because it's a good SDR.
Okay.
But for SDR, it does the job. If the person doesn't have the money to get a studio or to rent a high-end monitor with a card and everything, you just have to be super honest with them from the beginning. It's always, again, managing expectation, and you're going to be, okay, it's going to be 90% there, and you're going to just help them setting that up. So that's the other thing, again, being technical. So for the iPad, I do a first session with the client. I'm going to take your iPad Pro. Okay, go in the settings, disable True Tone, put reference mode on, and then we go. And I will be like, okay, let's go look at the color bar, for example, and I will show them, I don't know, maybe you will have to put an image for that, but there is a little gray bar inside a black box on the color bar, if you know what I mean. And there is a bar made to check the gamma. And you can, yeah. So if you do that on a high-end graded monitor, you will see this really faded bar. You know, when you play a video game, sometimes they ask you to set the gamma, and they say, oh, you don't want to barely see the image on the left side. This is that. They need to. So if they don't see it, which is fine on iPad Pro, you will know, okay, this iPad Pro is a tiny bit more contrast than my screen, and you can grade thinking about that, even though that's a bias. You have to be careful, obviously. But usually the iPad Pro, it's pretty good for SDR work. And I mean, that's what I do. I use Pixel View. I stream. I've got an external card called Magewell, I think. Magewell, something like that. And they export the signal in H.265. On the MacBook Pro, they can use Safari. On an iPad Pro, there's an app for it. And it gets pretty close to what I see, with a few exceptions. But again, that's a question of compromises. If they don't have the money to rent a room, like in Sydney, some dry hire can be $10,000, something crazy, per day. This is already a great way to do a great.
Man, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I guess, yeah, well, an hour 10 already in, and I don't want to take more of your time. I also have to edit all this afterwards.
No worries.
But I wanted to kind of have you, I want to get people on and kind of ask them. I want people from like, colorists to VFX people to DOPs to editors, producers, people just in the film industry or creative in general. It can be like a graphic designer. But so anyone in the creative world, and I want you to kind of like leave a question for the next person. So you can take a think about it. It can be anything. It can be like about their life, their personal ways of thinking about it. It can be about, what gets them excited or like what they look for the future or anything in the workplace. And yeah, you can take a bit of time to think about it.
First one, I would say, do you take the time to slow down?
Oof, huge.
Yeah, you can. So are you taking holidays? Do you do on a walk? That's what I do. I love camping and climbing. So usually I go far away from my screen and try to do something different, because usually I'm too obsessed next to my computer. So I'm always want to do something, video games or even like working on a new tool or whatever. So I was asked, what is your hobby? Do something different, So yeah, that's my question. Yeah, the first question.
I love it. Done. Well, Clément, again, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate your knowledge, and trust me, I'm going to send you way more questions about life and coloring and stuff, because you might be a bit more of you have way more knowledge than me, and I'd love to like learn more from you.
No worries.
But in the meantime, I'll let you know when this is out, and thank you so much.
Thank you.